Uliyannur Perumthachan. Perumthachan, another son of Vararuchi, lived at Uliyannur, a village near Alva, a town 15 kilometers to the east of Cochin located on the banks of river Periyar. He was a master in Tachu Shastram, the science of architecture and carpentry, and particularly an expert in Kshetra Tachu Shastram, temple architecture. The special pond he had designed at the request of the authorities of a temple in his village was a good example of his craftsmanship. Some of the authorities wanted the pond to be square-shaped, while some others wanted it to be rectangular. Yet some others wanted a round-shaped pond and the rest a triangular-shaped one. Perumthachan assured them saying, "Don't worry, I shall construct a square cum rectangular cum round cum triangular pond or an oval-shaped pond." He immediately started the construction of the pond. He completed his work in quick time and his work was a masterpiece in optical illusion. As he had promised, from one angle the pond looked like square-shaped, from another angle it seemed to be rectangular in shape, from one side it looked triangular and from another side it seemed to be round in shape. In fact, once inside the pond, people were unable to decipher the exact corners of the pond, unable to identify the four directions of the horizon, namely the east, west, the north, and the south. Brahmins found it difficult to perform their prayers as each prayer was supposed to be made facing a particular direction. Perumthachan's son Kannan was no less than a Tachan than his father. One day, out of the blue, he asked his father, "Father, do you think people will cross the river and go to the pond?" "What do you mean, my dear?" "The pond is close to the temple and the river is far away. Why are you asking such a silly question?" Perumthachan chided his son. "Let us wait and see," said Kannan and continued with his work. After a few years, the course of the river deviated naturally and as it flowed, it started kissing the boundary of the temple. The pond remained on the other shore of the river, so people stopped going to the pond, preferring to bathe in the river instead. Perumthachan realized the greatness of his son. Later, Perumthachan constructed a wooden bridge across the river with a doll at the eastern edge of the bridge. Whenever a pedestrian stepped on the western edge of the bridge, the doll would become alert. As the pedestrian would proceed across the bridge, the doll would slowly take a dip in the water. As the pedestrian would reach the center of the bridge, the doll would take a mouthful of water and slowly rise up. As the person would reach the eastern edge, the doll would also come up and spit on him, leaving him totally drenched and embarrassed, as he would become a laughing stock. When Kannan saw the plight of the villagers, he took a few small pieces of wood and assembled them in the shape of a doll. He nailed it at the eastern edge of the bridge in such a way that whenever Perumthachan's doll opened its mouth to spit, Kannan's doll would slap it on the cheek, the impact of which would force its face turn in another direction so that pedestrians would escape the embarrassment. All the villagers were revealed to be saved from the potential embarrassment and were all praised for Kannan's skills. However, Perumthachan took his son's action as an insult. Once, during a journey, Perumthachan saw a group of carpenters engaged in the construction of a temple. He went straight to the site and sat down on a log, watching them. But they went on with their work without paying any attention to him. At noon, they took a break and went into a shed nearby for lunch without bothering to invite him. He was left alone at the site. He took umbrage at their behavior and was very angry. He decided to avenge the insult. He sprang up from the log, made a mark on each of the rafters with a sharp nail and left. The carpenters came back after lunch. They noticed the marks on the rafters. Mistaking the marks for the measurements marked by their mutashari, they shaped the rafters accordingly. But when they tried to fix them to the main beam of the roof, they failed. The rafters did not fit properly into the main beam. They left the roof incomplete and began to make new rafters. Meanwhile, Perumthachan carved out a few lumps of wood and returned to the site. Kannan silently followed his father. It was lunch hour when Perumthachan reached the site and none was around. Perumthachan quickly climbed up to the main beam, fixed the lumps at the proper places and gave a hard blow at the top of the roof with his hammer. The rafters fitted perfectly into the beam and the roof instantly fell into place with perfect symmetry. Kannan, who had reached the site, was surprised to notice his father's skills. "Did you see something?" Perumthachan asked him. "Yes, I saw the trick and learned it too," Kannan replied. Meanwhile, the carpenters had come back. They were surprised to see the roof perfectly fitted. When they realized what had happened, they fell at the feet of Perumthachan. Both father and son joined them and completed the work of the temple. As days passed, it is said that Perumthachan started becoming jealous of his son, who was gaining popularity. He feared that Kannan would become more popular than him. The thought bothered Perumthachan to the point of wanting to finish off his son. One day, Perumthachan was giving the finishing touches to the roof of a temple, seated up on a tall beam. Suddenly, his eyes fell on his son sitting on the ground, engaged in a woodwork with his tools. In the flash of a second, his sharp chisel had dropped straight down to Kannan's neck, killing him on the spot. It is said that the mishap took place at Tiruvalla. While one version of the story maintains that Perumthachan had done it willfully, there is another version that says it was an accident. However, the reputation of Perumthachan as an architect and carpenter remains unblemished to this day. Perumthachan had constructed a temple in his own village at the request of Namboodiris there. The entrance to the Sri Kovil was designed in a peculiar way. The priests were left in confusion. The idol also was sculpted by Perumthachan. The Namboodiris who had asked him to build the temple had not given any specification of the deity. So he stood in hiding outside their bedrooms for days together. He noticed that all of them uttered the same word, Avidakira, meaning lie down there before going to bed. So he carved out an idol and named it Avidakida. The idol in a reclining posture can be seen in the temple even today. One day after Kannan's death, Perumthachan set out to Agnihotri's illam. On reaching there, he was told that Agnihotri was engaged in chanting the 1,000 verses of the Lord. Perumthachan dug a small pit in the sand and began to wait at the courtyard. Perumthachan, his 9 brothers and his only sister could enter Agnihotri's illam only to perform the religious rites of their deceased parents, otherwise they would not cross the limits of the courtyard. After some time, he enquired again. He was given to understand that Agnihotri was engaged in Aditya Namaskaram, worship of the sun god. He dug another pit in the sand. After a while, he was told that Agnihotri was performing Ganapati Homa, invoking of Lord Ganesh. He started digging one more pit. Agnihotri remained busy till noon, engaged in one ritual after the other. Perumthachan also was busy digging as many pits in the courtyard as the number of deities Agnihotri prayed to, since he arrived. At last, when Agnihotri came out, Perumthachan asked him in irritation, "Oh, you're free at last." Why? Did you get bored?" Agnihotri quipped back. "No, I too was busy outside digging pits in the courtyard, but I could not find a drop of water in any of the pits. If I had dug a single deep pit instead of many, it would have given me some water," Perumthachan remarked. Agnihotri was quick to grasp that Perumthachan was trying to say that instead of worshipping so many gods, he should devote himself to just one. So he retorted, "Even if you dig a number of pits, you can still find water in all the pits, provided you dig them constantly with utmost commitment. Anyway, all springs originate from the same fountain." "Yes, pits may be different, but their roots are the same," Perumthachan endorsed. "You said it," Agnihotri relented.